Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So here I have another 10 pens currently inked this week. Let's just go through these one by one briefly, and then we'll go through them in a little bit more detail, and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right, we have a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog, a Visconti Homo Sapiens Caput Mundi, a Visconti Homo Sapiens Jade, a Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age Marzi, a Danny Trio Tamanuri Kidami Bamboo Story. We have a Leonardo Momento Zero in the marbled green. We have a Leonardo Furore in the blue galaxy. We have an Omas Milord in the wild side. We have an Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco Brown. And we have a Molteni Modelo 55S. So let's go through these pens in a little bit more detail. Now this is the absolutely stunning Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog, and you can see here that this has a beautiful pattern. You can see why I love this pen so much. Now you'll be fooled into thinking that this pen isn't inked up. Aha! Well, it was inked up. I have cleaned it out because I wanted to really show off that pattern, because that pattern becomes quite muted once you have a barrel of ink in the pen. So I had it inked up, I cleaned it out, and I'm going to refill it for the writing sample. But I really wanted to just show off the beauty in that Homo Sapiens London Fog ribbon pattern there. It's absolutely stunning. And the cap here, you can see again, that's a lovely sort of mix of blue and grey and white. This pen, I have the My Pen initials on. It's a hook safe lock mechanism, so it unlocks or uncaps within a quarter of a turn. It comes with a lovely 23 cap palladium nib, and this is a fine nib, and this is the nib that I actually got on the pen when I bought it, and I had swapped it out for a 1.3mm stub for a while, and then I put the fine nib back, and I've actually fell in love with the fine nib even more now. So this has actually become quite a daily writer for me. So that's the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. I have inked up the Visconti Homo Sapiens Caput Mundi, and this is an Italian exclusive. Again, I have the My Pen initials there on the pen. It's a really lovely sort of like almost like claret or crimson coloured pen. It's a demonstrator, and again, like the Homo Sapiens London Fog, I have a 23 cap palladium nib on there. This is a medium nib, but again, I just love this pen. It has a hook safe lock, double reservoir, power vac filler, exactly the same as the London Fog, and this just is a beautiful pen to write with. So I'm really glad that I managed to pick that up as early as I did, because they did sell out fairly quickly. And then another pen that I deliberated on for a while was the Visconti Homo Sapiens, and this is the Jade version, and this comes with a Jade gemstone, which strangely enough isn't actually removable, or at least not on my pen. Maybe it is on other pens. If you have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Jade and you can remove that jewel, please do let me know, because I will be interested to find out. Some of the Homo Sapiens, or some of the My Pen systems, you can find that some of the finials are glued in place, even though they've got a magnet. Maybe the magnet's weak, so that's maybe a possibility there. But this did come with the jewels. So I pretty much think that this was supposed to be glued onto the pen. Although sometimes I sort of feel that I might like to remove that and put a different, maybe some initials on there or something, but I can't. But this, very similar to the Caput Mundi, it's a green, jade coloured pen, and the reason why I deliberated on this for a while was because I just wasn't so sure about this green. I like green, but I'm not really into jade, so it did take me a while, but I got this one with a 23 cat palladium medium nib on there. And again, this is actually quite a nice pen to write with. And then we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens Marzi. And this is a pen that I had looked over for a while, and I was looking at the prices, and I managed to get a price that was actually, at the time, fairly good. I've not actually seen them go for anything as cheap as that since on eBay. I picked this up from a German seller, Regina Martini, who actually has written a number of Pelican books as well. She's a collector and she's a seller, and she sells Pelicans as well as Viscontis, Mont Blancs, and I picked this one up from her, but this has this lovely Marzi mural on the Lava edition. So this is a Bronze Age, so it is that lava material, and then they Claudio Marzi airbrush paints this lovely picture on here, and then they lacquer it to seal it. So this is a Bronze Age. I actually do have a 1.3mm stub nib on here. So this is actually quite a wide nib. I did have a fine nib on here when I got it. It has a hook safe lock mechanism. It's not a double reservoir like all of the Bronze Age, Dark Age, Steel Age pens, but it is a power vac filler, and it has a hook safe lock mechanism which you can lock and unlock within quarter of a turn. So I have that one inked up this week as well. And I also have this behemoth of a pen inked up. Now this is an eyedropper pen, and you can see here this is the signature of the artist, but this is a beautiful Danny Trio pen, and I wanted a Urushi pen for some time, probably over a year, and then I saw this at the London pen show. And this actually, quite strangely, was on John Twist's table. But I didn't actually know that John Twist actually has quite a few Urushi pens. So I saw this on here, and I saw it on there in the morning. I decided not to buy it. And I came back, and lo and behold, it was still there. So I decided to buy it. This is a beautiful ebonite pen. It's made of ebonite, not bamboo, strangely enough. But you can see here the lovely number 8 size Danny Trio nib. It's a fine nib with an ebonite feed. I don't normally do fine nibs, but I do like this pen. So I made an exception, and I'm glad I did, because I do love this pen. So that pen is also inked up this week. And I have a couple of pens on loan to me from John at stjohnspens.com. And this is one of them. This is a Leonardo Momento Zero. Well, the full name is actually Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero. And this is the marbled green version of the pen. So this, all of the Leonardos are numbered editions, but not limited editions. So this is a lovely green marbled pen. And this has a steel medium nib. It's a number 6 size nib. It's a Leonardo engraved nib. Bock make these nibs. So I have that one inked up with me this week. And then I also have this one from John at St John's Pens, and this is a Leonardo Furore. And this, I really love the material, and I love that it's got gold accents with it. I think that accentuates this stunning material. So this is the Leonardo Officina Italiana Furore in the Blue Galaxy, and you can see why it's called the Blue Galaxy. It really is a stunning pen, and I have to admit I have become a little bit weak at the knees, thinking that I might have to buy this or buy a similar one. This has a broad nib on it, and I like broad nibs as well. So this is very difficult. This pen should be going back to John though at St John's Pens, but I'd like to thank him for the loan of this and other pens. So I've had that inked up again, but it's a beautiful pen. And then I have this one, and this is an Omar's Milord, and this is in the wild side, and this actually has a lot more white in it than a lot of wild sides do. I think initially I would have preferred it not to have as much white in there, or cream sort of colour there in the veins. But actually, I like it more now that I have it, and I do like it. So this is an original OMAS, and it has an OMAS 18 karat gold medium nib there with an ebonite feeder, uh, and it's a beautiful pen, and I love it. And I actually got it for a fairly, actually not fairly, I got it for an insane price. Bearing in mind it's not only an OMAS Milord, but it's a wild side. The wild side material, it doesn't go as high in terms of sale value as, say, an Arco Brown or an Arco Verde, but it's still a lot higher than just a regular resin. So I got this for an insane price. So I have that one inked up, and then of course I have the OMAS. Now you might think that this is a Milord. It's not. It's an OMAS Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco Brown or Arco Bronze, depending on what you want to call it. But you can see there that material is absolutely stunning. So I managed to pick this up at a pen club, and Thomas was selling this at the London Pen Club, and he was trying to tempt me for, I think, 2 or 3 months, and eventually I did cave. He wanted a little bit more than I wanted to pay for it, but it was still a very, very good price. So for me, I decided to add it to my collection. If I were to buy this elsewhere from a pen seller at one of the pen shows, I would have had to have paid a lot more. So I'm actually glad that I was able to pick it up when I did. This is an original OMAS. So it has this. This is a vermeil section. It's vermeil, so it's a gold sort of plated over silver, and then it has an 18 karat gold medium nib on there, and it's a piston filling pen, but it just writes really nicely. So I'm glad that I have that in my collection. And then last but not least, we have this one, and this I'm sure you've seen a lot in the past. It's the Molteni Modelo 55S, and this is the Royal Blue Lucents. It's a beautiful pen. I do love it a lot. I love the Lucents material. I have since picked up a ASC Bologna in the Black Gold Lucents. This is just a really lovely writer, and I have it inked up with KWZ Gummy Berry. It's a beautiful ink, and it just writes really well with this in this pen. So I also have that inked up this week. So I think with that, let's now go and do a writing sample. Now, the first pen I have inked up is the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. Now, you can see here that those swirls, those ribbon swirls, that pattern there in the body, is a lot more muted, and that's why I wanted to show you this uninked, because I think it looks a lot more beautiful when it's uninked rather than inked. Probably about the only pen that I have that actually looks as beautiful uninked. So let's do a writing sample. So we'll do an ink swatch first. Now, I did say that this is a fine nib, and it does put down a fine line, but this is one of those fine nibs I really do love writing with, and I don't like writing with a lot of fine nibs. So this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog, and it's a fine, and it's a 23 karat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki, which is one of my favourite inks. I do like to ink that pen up with. The next pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Caput Mundi. So we'll do another ink swatch here. Now this is a medium nib, So it puts down a little bit more of a wider line. Not much, but enough. So this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens, and this is the Caput Mundi, and it's a medium, again 23 cat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, Garnet, which is a beautiful red ink. The next pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Jade. So we'll do another ink swatch here. Now this is another medium nib pen. So very similar to the Caput Mundi. So it's a Visconti Homo Sapiens Jade, and it's again a medium 23 carat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, Jade, which is a good match, at least by name, maybe not necessarily by colour. The ink is actually really what I'd call more of a jade colour, whereas the pen is probably not. And then the next pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age Marzi. So we'll do an ink swatch again. Now this is a much wider nib. You can see there. So this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens. I'm gonna call it a BA for Bronze Age Marzi, otherwise I'm gonna run out of space. And it's a 1.3mm stub nib, and it's a 23 carat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Diamine Bilberry, and that's a lovely purpley or bilberry coloured ink. The next pen is the lovely oversized Danny Trio Tamanuri Kidami Bamboo Story. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, although this is quite a wet pen, or wet nib I should say, this is a fine nib. But you can see there just how wet this nib is. So that's one of the reasons why I do like this pen, although I don't normally go for fine nibs. So this is the Danny Trio, and it's the Tamanuri Kidami, and it's the bamboo story, and it's a fine 18 carat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, Garnet. So you can see the difference between these two inks depending on really the width of the nib and how much ink that the pen does put down. The next pen is the Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero in the marbled green. So again, we'll do an ink swatch. Now this is, just double checking, it's a medium nib. Now this is a Bock nib, and to be honest, I find this nib writes almost similarly to the Danny Trio, which is a fine Bock nib. And this is sometimes what you can find with nibs is that you do get a variance between how they write, or really the nib width of a pen. So this is the Leonardo Momento Zero, and it's the marbled green, and it's Ellie, and it's a medium, and it's a still nib. And then the ink in here is Mont Blanc Irish Green. But that is, strange enough, a green ink that I haven't used a lot lately, and I decided, you know what, I need to ink that ink up in a pen because it is actually quite a nice ink. And then the next pen is a Leonardo Officina Italiana Furore in the blue Galaxy. So again, we'll do an ink swatch. Now, this is a broad nib, and you can probably see there. Now, this is actually quite a sort of thicker ink. So this is a Leonardo, and it's the Furore, and it's the blue Galaxy, and it's a broad still nib, but this writes really lovely. And then the ink in here is Blackstone, and it's Sydney Harbour Blue, which I always think should be a much lighter blue, although I honestly haven't been to Sydney, let alone Australia, but I always think that, I don't know, from the colour of the water that I've seen on film, on video, that should be a much lighter blue, but it's quite a dark blue, almost a blue-black. And then the next pen we have inked up is the Omas Milord in the Wild Side. So we'll do an ink swatch again, and you can see here. Now this is a medium nib, and you might be able to hear it has quite a lot of feedback, actually more than what I would say would be a regular pencil feedback. But I do still like how this nib writes, even though I tend to like more smoother nibs. So this is the Omas Milord in the Wild Side, and it's a medium 18 karat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Lamy Red. Now, you might be fooled into thinking that I do actually match my inks to my pens. Well, as you can see, this is not a red pen, but it's just an ink that I have inked up in that pen, and I've liked it ever since. So it's just an ink that I tend to use in that pen a lot. And then the next pen is the Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco Brown or Arco Bronze, depending on what you want to call it. So let's do an ink swatch. Now this nib is a beautiful writing nib from Omas. I absolutely love how this nib writes. This is the Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco Brown, and it's a medium 18 karat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Mont Blanc Toffee Brown, which is a very lovely dark brown ink. And then last but not least, we have the Molteni Modelo 55S in the royal blue Lucents. Now we'll do an ink swatch, and this is a medium nib. It's a Bock nib, and I just love how this nib writes. Beautiful writing nib. So it's the Molteni Modelo 55S in the royal blue Lucents, and it's a medium 18 karat gold nib, and then the ink in here is KWZ Gummy Berry. But that for me is a beautiful ink, and although technically this is a blue pen, as you can see here, I still like to have it inked up with a purple ink. So I think let's just go through these pens that are inked up one more time. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog in a fine 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Caput Mundi in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Garnet. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Jade in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Jade. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age Marzi in a 1.3mm stub 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Diamine Bilberry. We have a Danny Trio Tamanuri Kidami Bamboo Story in a fine 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Garnet. We have a Leonardo Memento Zero in a marbled green medium steel nib, inked up with Mont Blanc Irish Green. We have a Leonardo Furore Blue Galaxy in a broad steel nib, inked up with Blackstone Sydney Harbour Blue. We have an Omas Milord Wildside in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Lamy Red. We have an Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco Brown in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. And last but not least, we have a Molteni Modelo 55S in the royal blue Lucents in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with KWZ Gummy Berry. So there you have it. That's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.